Hi, everyone, welcome back to our channel Screenplay Recaps. Who can tell what women want? Anyone? Nobody. Even women themselves couldn't say without a doubt. Therefore, today I will recap the comedy, fantasy, and romantic movie called What Women Want. Let's dive into it. The movie begins with Nick Marshall, and he is an advertising expert ad man.
He's the king of all the TNA ads that we do.
Meanwhile, Nick's ex-wife reveals his ex-husband is the ultimate man's man, and he has a 16-year daughter with his ex-wife as well.
Nick was a charmer.
Nick's mother was a dancer, and he was born and raised in Las Vegas, and always surrounded by the girls backstage, which made him overwhelming good at communication skills with girls.
There was nothing normal about the way Nick Marshall was raised.
Back to the present, Nick wakes up after a lovey-dovey evening, then he requests the maid to make him a sandwich, and she agrees to make it with one condition: he doesn't call her babe.
But only because you didn't call me that little pig thing.
On his way to the office, he even fixed a date with the clerk at the cafe who planned to deny him. However, he nailed it with his moves and charms.
It's a date. Thank you.
That was inspiring.
Nick reached the office to make fun of a female colleague and is in a very good mood because he will be promoted to creative director today. His secretary informed him that the staff meeting had been cancelled, and he asked the reason, and she didn't know that either.
You couldn't show up on time the day you know you're being promoted.
Then he went straight to Dan's office. Dan gave him a lecture on modern advertising and new strategies. It turned out that the performance of the advertising agency had been consistently declining over the previous 2 years, because of the company's lack of innovation. So they decided to hire Darcy as creative director instead of him because the female product market is making the most money today.
She's a real man-eater.
Then Dan says, "You know I like you, Nick, and you're good at your job, but getting into women's psyche is not your forte." Darcy is a woman and understands women's products well, and she has had a remarkable record performance throughout recent years.
Work with her.
Later, Nick goes to his ex-wife's wedding ceremony and gives his warm regards. He comes to know his daughter Alex will stay with him for 2 weeks cause his ex-wife is going for honeymoon on the cruise. There he gets the shocking news that his 13-year-old daughter has a boyfriend.
How you gonna handle it?
I'm gonna love it.
He returns to the office to attend the first meeting with his future rival boss. Everyone in the boardroom is standing by to see Darcy as she enters. He deliberately drops the pen to figure out what she looks like and unexpectedly realizes that she is quite pretty.
Hello, I'm Darcy.
Then Darcy talked about her career journey in advertising, and she always wanted to be part of Solange Curtis, even though she had applied for a job twice. Darcy said teamwork is everything. We can take this company to the moon if we work with absolute dedication. So, she proposed new ideas for a female advertising campaign and distributed gift boxes to everyone that contained products females use in their daily routine. Nick doesn't look very happy about this, and she wants everyone to prepare a creative campaign for one of these products.
See you at 8:30 tomorrow morning.
Afterward, Nick drinks alcohol while watching TV at home, then he puts on some music and starts dancing, and he suddenly gets an idea to use female products in the box for fun. So, he begins waxing, polishing his toenails, even trying to put on leggings, and forgetting that his daughter is coming home. She showed up with her boyfriend. She couldn't imagine that her dad would embarrass her like this.
What are you doing?
Nick tried to justify his position that he was doing it for research at work. Then he watches Alex's boyfriend kissing her before leaving home. He doesn't like it all. They both get into a heated argument, and Alex angrily slams the door. Nick gets distracted. While testing an electric hairdryer, he slips and falls into the bathtub, where he electrocutes himself with the hairdryer and lies unconsciously on the floor the entire night. The next morning, when Nick's maid arrived and saw him lying on the floor, she tried to wake him up, and Nick found out that he could hear the maid inside thoughts.
Did I say anything?
He leaves home to go to the office as he walks through a park and confronts numerous women. He realizes that he can hear only women's thoughts, which makes him scared.
He'll make me hear another disgusting joke.
When he gets to work and understands that all his female colleagues disgust him and he is horrified to learn, they pretend to like him but don't.
I could hear what every woman around me was thinking.
Then he tells his mate that he can hear women inside thoughts. His friend thinks he's become paranoid. Then they go together to attend the meeting, And Darcy notices that Nick is the only one who looks confident and makes eye contact with her. Darcy asked about his concept on female product advertising, and he tried to sell some silly ideas. However, the ideas were not super good. So Nick stole the ideas from one of his female colleagues' thoughts and tried to pitch that idea like it was his idea in the meeting. Darcy was impressed. At least he tried something.
He's back.
Afterward, Nick tried to recreate the entire scene to get back to normal because he wanted to eliminate those superpowers. He goes out into the storm, turns on the hairdryer, and passes out there. The next morning Nick wakes up and goes to the shopping mall to find out if the experiment was successful or not. He looks happy because everything seems normal, but he quickly realizes that he can still hear women's thoughts that make him worried. He immediately visits the psychiatrist who treated him and his ex-wife long ago. She is not a fan of him either, and he discusses his mental problem at first. She doesn't believe him and thinks he is an idiot, but he proves her wrong by telling her what she thinks right now.
Want to make a decision here?
Oy vey!
She then helps him to understand the magnitude of his superpowers. He is the luckiest man on earth. He can rule the world because he knows what women want. Later, he visits the coffee shop and catches Loa's thought.
Why'd I tell him to stop asking me out? I'm an idiot! Idiot!
Nick uses his superpowers to gain her trust and secure the date. He reaches the office and starts treating female colleagues well, especially the glasses girl. He hears her inside, thinking she is about to commit suicide and steal other women's thoughts side by side. Dan came to seek some advice on artworks. Nick took the opportunity, stole Darcy's perception, and sold it to Dan like one of his own concepts. She got confused because she was thinking the same.
I like Nick's fix on this.
Poor Darcy doesn't have a clue about his powers and thinks he is smarter than her. Furthermore, he pretends he has a good relationship with his daughter over the phone to gain more trust in her. When Darcy knew about his little daughter going to a prom night party, she gives him good advice about the prom dress.
She won't last a month.
He goes home, tries to fix father and daughter relations with Alex, and offers her to go on prom dress shopping. He also suggests her friends order the pizza. He not only wins Alex's heart, even her friends too. Later in the evening, Nick goes on a date with Lola and impresses her with his charm and superpowers.
You knew what I wanted and how I wanted it.
Anyhow, he continues with his life and steals Darcy's ideas, and his plan is clear to take her position, although he doesn't deserve it. Darcy was confused and shocked. How could his ideas always be the same as mine? Meanwhile, Nick earned women's respect by solving their problems and giving them better advice. He later goes to Darcy's office to steal more ideas. As she starts thinking about the advertising slogan, Nick starts grabbing the idea from her thoughts.
Did I say that out loud?
Then Nick says something nice about her, and she realizes that he is not as bad as she used to think. She's started falling for him.
Oh, don't fall for a guy at work.
That evening Nick sees Darcy is working late. He quickly sees her and realizes she is working late due to a rescheduling meeting time, and Nick is the reason. So, he feels guilty and decides to help her, and they both have a good time. The next morning, he took Alex to the mall to purchase the prom dress. They are having a good time until Nick hears his daughter inside, thinking she is going to sleep with her boyfriend on prom night, which worries him. Hence he takes her over the lunch to talk about the topic, which doesn't end well.
You've never had a real relationship with anyone in your entire life.
She is angry with him because of being an absentee father and leaves without finishing her lunch. That hurt Nick. Later in the evening, Darcy called Nick after some chit-chat. They both agree to go out for drinks, where he learns that Darcy's divorced marriage didn't work out because of her popularity at work, and her husband didn't love her either.
Do you want to come back to my place? Say it.
When Nick hears her thoughts, he says goodnight to her because he thinks Darcy is a magnificent woman and different from other women, and he feels guilty for sabotaging her work. On his way home, he encounters Lola. She is complaining that he's ghosted her since the day he slept with her. He hasn't contacted her for 6 days. Nick doesn't want to hurt her, so he follows her thinking and accepts he is.
If things should ever change in that department.
Well, you'll be the first to know.
The next morning Nick asked Darcy to present the campaign to Nike, but Darcy refused the offer, saying she didn't want to take credit for Nick's hard work. She even tells him this is his project, and he has to present it.
This is your lucky day, pal.
He presents the advertising campaign to the client. Dan and Darcy were thrilled that the client loved this unique idea, and he closed the deal. On the other side, Nick feels very upset, so he writes a confession letter. Before he finished the confession, Darcy came to congratulate and invite him to her place. She gave him a tour of her new apartment, with romantic music coming in from the window. They enjoyed the evening dancing and talking together. The next morning Nick goes to Dan's office to confess, but Dan informs the client is very happy to work with Nick. He is promoting him as a creative director because Darcy is good for nothing, so he fired her.
She is the best creative director I have ever seen.
He convinced Dan without her help, he wouldn't be able to win the account. The entire campaign idea was hers, not his. If he doesn't hire her back, they will lose this account. Nick forced him to rehire her, and Dan did the right thing. Then Nick noticed the glasses girl with negative thoughts didn't show up today. He rushes to look for her and takes help from an old lady to get to her location. As he entered the alley, the electricity cable malfunctioned. The cable exploded and fired sparks due to heavy rain, but nothing happened to Nick. He straight goes to her apartment and finds the empty bottle of pills and notes that made him extremely worried. But nothing happened like that, thank God. They talked to each other, and Nick realized that he was free from hearing all the women's thoughts. That's a relief.
I'm back.
Aaron asked why he is there. Nick said he is here to promote her to copywriter, her dream job. After that, Nick goes to Darcy's house to ring the doorbell and make a call to speak to her, but she doesn't answer because she feels low. Later in the evening, his ex-wife called and revealed that Alex was in trouble. He instantly goes to the party and catches her crying in the toilet. It turned out that her boyfriend dumped her because she followed his advice and said no to him. Nick appreciates her brave decision.
Take me home, Dad.
Nick tucked her in the bed and returned to Darcy's home. This time she let him in, and he told her she'd been rehired again. She didn't believe him and disclosed that she is selling the place because she is jobless and couldn't afford to bear this expensive apartment. She also said she doesn't deserve this position even though she cannot deliver good work like him. So Nick begins his confession that he was up for the promotion, but the management hired you as creative head instead of him, so he starts sabotaging her job, somehow stealing her ideas and thinking, and also disclosing his feelings and love to her. After listening to all of his confessions, she fired him.
I never really thought about it from that angle.
When Nick leaves the apartment with a broken heart, Darcy follows him back to tell him she made a mistake firing him. She forgave him, and they kissed. So that was what women want. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and turn on the notification so you won't miss the next recap. Until then, cheers.